Pazi ta črn kabel, kam ima vakal kontakt od spodaj, tako da mi nogice gor. Bravo, super. Aj dober? Je dober napisala? Zdravo, zdravo. Hello, hello. This is Ljubljana calling from an exhibition, The Cornea Stories, in the framework of the 26th International Festival of Contemporary Art, a city of women. My name is Katja Kobold, and with me are Ana Idukovic and Miljana Babic, two of the participating artists and researcher within the project. Together with differently organized individuals, initiatives, organizations, we have initiated the Cornea Stories project upon a research and artistic research of cosmetics. Cosmetics as an everyday material culture. Cosmetics is an everyday material culture, and in its historical and societal dimension. Within the project, we have made an exhibition, a student research project, and a cycle of lectures and art educational program. That is, especially the discursive problem, that is, so to say, being moved since yesterday to the digital sphere. So we are basically more or less the three of us here together with the technical crew. And we are very happy, in case you have just logged in, to invite you to this talk, which will be about a short introduction to the whole project. And in the second round, Ana Idukovic and Miljana Babic will present their also collaborative project called Third Shift, or Treća smjena, which they conducted together with other researchers and with participating women. Around 60 women, which were undergoing different beauty treatments, less or more invasive, in Rijeka's beauty parlors or aesthetic surgeries. And they talked with them, especially regarding the relation, and especially in regard to the labor. Within the project, Treća smjena, the cosmetics are, so to say, dealt with in terms of the investment of labor, of time and money, and also in terms of the whole effectual and societal normative, so to say, dimension about this labor. Maybe shortly on the other aspects of this artistic research. The research has been initiated 2018 as the Cornea story. It's the third edition of this initiative organized by this platform, Nails, Hacks, Facts, and Fictions. It's an initiative by different individuals, artists, curators. And we approach at that time the beauty of labor, especially the nail design and the labor within the nail studios and the aesthetics of the nails from the perspective of the migranticized labor, and also migranticized and differently in terms of class and ethnicity coded coded beauty and visual culture. For the Ljubljana edition, we opened up in collaboration of different partners, among others also Goethe Institute Ljubljana and Gallery Scoot, as well as Academy of Arts and Design in Ljubljana. The topic towards local and regional questions, especially towards the historical dimension. And we found out through this research that cosmetics is very modern paradigm that has been introduced into popular culture and consumerism and everyday culture since the 1950s, and that it has been mainly, so to say, imported from the West to the East. However, East already within the socialism very welcomely embraced cosmetics and position it as a modern characteristic of especially cisgendered femininity. One of the artists of the exhibition, Marijke Bernin, has in her visual collage that it's also to be seen in the publication of the project, which is also available online. Cornea Stories, Cosmetics in Society and Time. So Marijke Bernin revealed through her research a distinctive connection between the first nail polish, car polish, and the celluloid film. The three products were based historically on the same chemical structure, which was synthetic nitrocellulose, and also they shared their circle of popularization. So it could be said that while in the East, a git pop train brought with film October Revolution to the people and collective mobility, in the West, film has brought cosmetics and automobility to the people. This is one of the focuses of the exhibition. We are sitting in front of a work by Jean Ranha and Johanna Kete-Michel, two of the artists based in Berlin and members of the Nails, Hacks, Facts and Fictions platform, who dealt and who deal within this art piece with other dimension of beauty labor, especially nail art, as especially within the German context, but also Australian or the US context, a very ethnicized labor that is mainly conducted by East Asian diaspora. And as we found out through the research, even state agencies, work agencies, basically support very much this racial profiling of this labor, which is extremely hazardous in regard to health because of various toxic substances that are used in the nail salons. And also, it's a very precarious work, as the majority of the nail workers are self-employed entrepreneurs who offer their services for very little money. So, for example, in Germany, the whole nail modelage costs 30 euro, and in this, all the labor, all the material, all the rent needs to be included, and the procedure lasts for about hour and a half. So Jinran and Johanna Kete Michael departed from this research and created, on the one hand, one interactive work as a utopian proposal for the organization of the nail artists, and on the other hand, they tackled with an online work that you can also approach online, dialogue of the objects, komische Fragmente. They tackled the very racially and classicized, coded issues that derive from the different, so to say, designs of looks and interpretation of different designs of appearances. I wouldn't go now further into more details of the exhibition and the project, as today it's all about your project, and I would just shortly like to introduce the both guests that we have today with us. These are Miljana Babic. Miljana Babic is an artist who obtained her official artistic education in South Africa, Durban, and was working before very public sculpture based art, and since more than a decade, so almost 15 years, she has been developing mainly public art project in which she departs very much from her own positionality in society as an artist and as a woman, or rather as an art worker. Ana Idukovic is a research associate at the Center for Women's Studies at the Faculty of Philosophy in Rijeka. She's an LGBT activist, and together also with Miljana Babic, they're also collaborating at the initiative and a festival called Smokva, which is LGTB initiative and festival in Rijeka, who is to be online next week. And together in, is it next week? Yes. And together, and also in collaboration with Brigitta Milos, if I'm not mistaken, you have conceptualized and conducted, as well as presented, the research upon the labor of beauty. So I would now pass you over the mic and ask you to present the project in its impetuses, production process, and also results, but also maybe some troubles. And I would be happy after that to discuss with you maybe on some aspects, further aspects on the project.
Okay, thank you, Katja. We are showing as part of the exhibition in Shkuts a work called The Third Shift. It's in co-authorship between Center for Women's Studies from Rijeka. Anna is one of the members. Brigitta Miloš, who is not here, was the second member who was intensively involved in this project, and myself. How we came to this idea was I was invited by Drugo More, the producer of the work, to make a new work on the topic of that dealt with work as part of a program line of Rijeka Culture Capital 2020 called Dopo Lavoro. So I knew from the beginning that I wanted to go in the direction of really questioning the relationship between women, between the terms women, body, work, and beauty, yes. But the field was a bit too broad, much too broad for me, so I approached Center for Women's Studies in Rijeka to assist me basically while researching the topic, and somehow during this process we kind of organically grew into co-authorship, and the result is what we have here, as Katja already showed. It's a publication called The Third Shift. It simulates a woman's magazine, and it was realized as an intervention in a woman's glossy magazine called Gloria Glam. It comes out once in 2 months, and this one came out in February 2020. Yes, this is to start with.
Yeah, so when Miliana approached to the Center for Women's Studies, so basically we are a so-called scientific research platform that gathers around professors, students, NGOs, everyone who are interested in working and collaborating in the field of feminism, gender theory, and so on. So when we had this great opportunity to collaborate with Miliana, we immediately started to think how we can help her, and what can be firstly the literature she can read, and also how we can interconnect the terms of body, beauty, and work in this so-called program Dopo Lavoro, which is also very I would say a specific term, because it means that you have some time for yourself, and then what are you going to do with this specific time? But also then we realized that there is one very good and great book, Beauty Myth of Naomi Wolf, in 1990s, where she mentioned the syntagma, the third shift. And the third shift can be something that we can understand as all this work that you do while you are working on your appearance, or so-called self-fashioning. So it is very hard to measure this kind of labor, but is always connected with your energy, with your thinking of your appearance, and doing all these activities that in the end will lead you that you look like the images on the woman who are constantly that you can constantly see on these so-called glossy magazines, in femcare industries, and so on. So this was kind of our idea, also how we are going to connect this third shift with a more familiar one, that is first shift, women who are on the labor market and they are paid for the job they're doing. There is this so-called the second shift, working in house, so houseworking, household. And then there is this third one. So that was kind of our idea and our standing point from where we decided to enter into all this process. And yes, so in end of the 2018, then in 2019, we decided that we are going to do a research because we really needed the authentical statements of a woman. And also we wanted to do it in the beauty salons because this is how we could claim that women are really in these places. They are time consuming. Their appearance is something that has to be worked on. So we decided it could be done only in authentical places like beauty salons. So we had the help of two more researchers. They're psychologists, and they helped us to develop questions within an interview. So we had 11 questions that we prepared before going to the beauty salons in Rijeka. We visit 20 beauty salons of different treatments. So nails, hair, but also there were much more invasive methods and treatments such as Botox, what we have,
Permanent makeup.
permanent makeup, and so on. I don't know if you can see no the presentation, but okay. You can see it. Okay. So some of the pictures on the PowerPoint are our real authentical pictures and us being on the places, spending some time with women and talking about work on their appearance. So yes, it was a really it was a great experience in a way because we spent lots of time talking with them, talking about their feelings, their thoughts, and what we gained was material, not for the scientific article, but it was that was data that we used to create a publication. So
What was maybe interesting, apart from choosing to do our research in authentic places like beauty salons that were aesthetic centers and hair salons and nail salons and even clinics where they do more invasive treatments, was also it was proved that actually while doing certain treatments like sitting in hair salons, women happen to have time because they have they're sitting there for maybe 2 or 3 hours waiting for the color for the hair to dye, and we basically had this time when we could all concentrate, both the women who were interviewed and ourselves, in this authentic ambient. So this was I think very important to us. And just to say that we interviewed about 60 women of different age, from the age of 18, let's say 80 plus even, and the result was audio material that was transcripted, and basically we had this huge pool of different statements and different material that we could use for our work. At that time we knew that we were going to have a publication as a let's say final product of our research, but only when we were listening to our material that it came to our heads that perhaps going in the direction of an intervention in a woman's magazine would be the best solution. Also because while spending time in the beauty salons, we were sitting and waiting for our interview time to start next to other women who were really reading the magazines. So it was kind of somehow we realized that this would be the best channel for us to distribute our work. Also, while listening through all this material, there were quite a few overlapping things that happened between what we know from the magazines, like, for example, the name of particular columns, such as Only My 5 Minutes or Beauty Secrets and so on, that were also often used as phrases in interviews themselves. Like in interviews, we often came across statements where women said, every woman should do this, every woman should do this, every woman this, every woman was so frequent that we named one of our columns in the magazine as every woman. Perhaps what was the fortunate thing for us, that we were a part of the Culture Capital Rijeka 2020 program, and somehow, because of this great opportunity, we managed to come across Gloria Glam magazine. It was a media house that was working in the field of promotion with Culture Capital, and somehow we found a way in to get this space for our intervention.
Yes, it was distributed in 10,000 copies in different cities of Croatia. But what was also interesting, that when we were sitting there in these beauty salons and talking with women, and also waiting for someone that was willing to do the interview, we realized that this publication, the best way to end our process and to give some kind of critical overview to all this beauty industry and femme care industry, was to give this publication right back to the salons who gave us opportunity to cooperate with them, and that we can spend some time there. So all these magazines, after they were distributed and that you could buy them on the market, were also given to the beauty salons where we cooperated. So now when women come to their treatment, they can also find this publication to use it. Also, we had the time where we really intense cooperate, while we were also reading all these similar magazines, because we were trying to understand the discourse of this kind of magazines, and we try to appropriate all these items and features of this glossy magazine into our publication. So when you see it on your first appearance, you cannot see the difference from the other similar magazines. You can only see it when you try to read the statements and when you are trying to read the columns inside of the publication. So this was kind of, we simulated the magazine, but in a way it is a critical overview on all of this idea of how this ideal femininity is presented. So this was also, I think, something that was part of our process. So we also we transcribed all the statements, and then we had this pattern when we realized that there are several statements constantly are coming out. This is what you already said. Every woman has to have a nails. Every woman has to have a very great hair. But we also had the questions where we're trying to connect how important your appearance is for your for a job that you are doing. So it was also kind of connecting importance of how you look to the job you are doing. And what we realized, that there are several professions that are maybe more how to say it, they have more supervision on your appearance as if you are a woman, such as if you work with the clients, then your employer will always ask that you are a young woman, that your appearance is something that can present their product. So this is what we also realized through these interviews. And yes, to trying to make the frame of our publication was connecting it with the statements of women that we heard, but also by trying to appropriate all these equal columns that you can find in the similar magazines.
Yeah, so the entire content is actually statements from women that are separated in different columns, and columns, as we already said, are named exactly as some of the columns in women's magazines, such as only my 5 minutes. But what we actually do, we are, I would say, even ironic in a sense, because in our only 5 minutes we show how difficult it is for women to organize their lives and logistics in order to get to that time they can have for themselves. And even when they do that, it never lasts for 5 minutes, because treatments last, and they also somehow also force a certain frequency. Whichever treatment you go to, there is a certain frequency you need to follow in order to keep it up. Otherwise, you end up not looking the way you wish. But also, the way the work is structured is also somehow similar to some columns are directly referring to questions from our interview. So, like, one of the questions in the interview was, how do you feel when, in your opinion, your hair is not done or your nails are not done, or whatever treatment women were doing at the time? And this is one of the columns that we have in the magazine.
Yeah, if I can just say, because with these questions we try to see how much women are internalized with these pictures from outside, and how much this so-called beauty myth lives inside them. And this constantly repeating sentences, no, but every woman has to pay attention to their appearance. Every woman has to know that if she goes to a job interview, she has to look like on some kind of specific way. And with this question, how are you feeling when you don't have your hair done? They would say, I feel really bad. It's like something is really wrong. I feel ashamed, or something like that. So through this, we try to see how much we are affected about these pictures that we are surrounded.
And then we had to also somehow, since we had our text resolved in terms of the columns and the content that would go in the magazine, we still had this question open, not resolved, about the representation. And I was really looking for the way to enter the work in a performative way as an artist. But somehow in this particular project there were other women we were interviewing. It was a collaborative project with other two women, so this idea wasn't, it didn't live, basically. And when it came to the question of representation, somehow in one moment we all realized that we couldn't go in direction of engaging models for the performing the visual part. And then it came to me as an artist to take over this role, which for me was really exciting and something new, because I myself went under some treatments that I never did before. Like I had long false nails that I couldn't really move around easily. But what was really significant for our project, we didn't really know how to close this publication. We didn't know how we would really end. One spontaneous thing happened along the way, and that was some kind of a project inside a project, because while I was undergoing the transformations or my own look, because I had full makeup made and wigs on my head and so on, I received many comments from my near colleagues who were nearby those days, and some of them some of them made me really uncomfortable. Like some of them really insisted that I look much better as a blonde, and so on. So somehow this happened to be the closure of the work, that we include at the beginning. We have full makeup, and at the end, that you can show, and at the end we have a nude. And at the end we have a nude me with all comments, that some of the comments that I received written over my face. So then the publication works in a way that it's some kind of a closed circle, that we start with this, and no, we start with this, and then we have to do all of this, and these are the verbs taken out from the interviews that go on, like to correct, to adjust, to bleach, to wax, to mask, to to fix, and so on. And if you do all of this, then you end up like this. And then when you end up like this, you get all these compliments that you are like a bomb, and that you are top spot, that you are like whatever, fantastic, beautiful, gorgeous, like a woman, cultural, professional, interesting, like a violin, tutto completo, perfect, and so on and so on.
These all verbs are something that we gained from the interviews. We didn't intervene in any way to their authentical statements. So when you're reading it like an audio tape, then it seems like you're like an object, like in a car, that you have to get something fixed so you can be great again, shiny, new product. So in a way, when you see it, when you now understand it like that, maybe the process in the magazine can be more clearly now.
Okay, so then when the work came out in February on the kiosks it was spread in Croatian cities, this was a very exciting moment, and something that happened afterwards kind of made sense at the end. And this is that on one side we were really kind of allowed to create our work without any censorship or any control from the side of the magazine, which basically hosted us, accepted us. But on the other side, the same magazine, when they promoted their new number, whether on social media or live, they basically completely ignored us. So, for example, when they're announcing their new number, they're saying, with the new number of Gloria Glam, you can get a perfume. It's a sandalwood perfume that you get in the packet. But they never say that with this magazine you can get an artwork. And somehow it made sense to us, because we were really wondering when we had this idea. The idea was slightly utopic, that we would be allowed to produce work in such a way. Also to say that the same magazine, in the previous number, they had a special edition to the magazine, which is called Magazine About Aesthetics Without Taboos. And that one talks about superheroes and revolutions in aesthetic medicine. So that's the previous number. And then if we look at things from that perspective, knowing how women's magazines survive, no matter how emancipated they try to be, and then this somehow made sense, and we are still grateful nevertheless.
Yes, now maybe looking back and thinking about all this process. So from the side of the center, maybe I can just speak in my name because Brigitta is not here. But in a way, it was crossing the disciplines and crossing our ideas and crossing our thoughts. So maybe about the obstacles we had at the time when we started to talk about how we're going to approach to the topic of beauty, body, and work through the third shift. We really didn't have a clear idea that this is going to be a magazine, how we're going to present our work. And for us on the side of the center, we're not familiar to working in such terms where you have a deadline for tomorrow and then you have to stick to idea, but you don't know if will this be something that you can rely on. So it was full of I would say believing one in another and trying to cooperate in a way that we can give her a support in a terms that we are really framing it in the theories that can be established in the second or third wave of the feminism, and that we are here really grounded. But the representation of this data that we gained through the research and representation of our ending work was all on Miljana's, I would say. But really great experience in the end. For me, I was also writing about the construct of the femininity through the commercials. And for me, this trying to connect theory and practical work and working in the field was something very important to me, talking with women and gaining all this experience and involving myself in this kind of sometimes ad hoc situations, even if wasn't always very pleasant because we have very different experience in the salons. In the end, I think it was a great job and a great connection between a research part, theoretical part, and this, I would call it a practical part. Maybe Miljana will have a different experience.
No, it's a great experience, absolutely, because as artists, we often find ourselves in the fields in which we are experts, really, and it's kind of difficult to carry this on your own. Also, it's great to have company and to have this sharing moment in all phases that happen in work. But in this particular case, for me, it was some kind of security. I felt secure having a Center for Women's Studies dealing with topics like what this project deals with, knowing from beginning till the end that I will not be on a slippery ground, that I could be without having support like you in this process. But what I found very interesting also what Brigitta, our other colleague, said to me after the entire process is this, she actually concluded after having gone through this artistic process that artists can really have hard time because you have to be really, it's so unpredictable, and you start something, you basically jump into fire and you don't know what the outcome will be. You start something and you just don't know if you will succeed. You're risking really a lot. Not that you don't risk in other fields, but in this particular case, like we were preparing this, we were almost like photo shooting without knowing whether it will still happen or not, you know. So, yeah, I would do it again. But what we missed to say also is that at the end our work came back to the salons where we did our research, because some of the salons, they are prescripted for Gloria Glam. Otherwise, we brought them personally to the salon. So somehow we think and we hope that we did a full circle.
Are there any, maybe some other aspects that you planned to share with us? Or could I here attach to what you just said right now?
I know what we missed to say, and this is that we also have a billboard in public space.
Yes, that's right. Yes,
We went from what? Yes, we went. Okay. Okay. We were supposed to have an exhibition after we realized this project. The exhibition never happened because it was the time of lockdown, and the exhibition was meant to be a backdrop for the media intervention that was happening at the time. So this never happened, and now we are presenting the work which we did in Rijeka a few days ago. And now in Ljubljana, also adjusted to the new situation. Now we have a work realized in the medium of a public announcement or a billboard that is, I should say, corona friendly. That no matter what happened with today's event, we could still observe the work and have the audience.
You basically already, with the first form of the presentation of your work, which is simultaneously an artwork and a research presentation of research results. As you said, they are basically more or less on the narrative level statements by women themselves. So it's kind of mirroring, so to say, the relationship of the interviewed women to the other, so to say, customers or consumers of beauty products and beauty designed, cosmetically designed looks. And you decided basically for a presentation which is exceeding artistic space. Already with the first presentation form, you went decisively into, so to say, glossy, women's glossy magazine, and also with the contemporary presentation within the Cornea Stories project and at Rijeka, you go into public space.
In Zagreb, we have currently billboards in Ljubljana and Rijeka and Zagreb. In Rijeka is part of Rijeka 2020 Culture Capital, and in Zagreb is part of a manifestation or festival called Ganz Nove Perforacije, Ganz New Perforations, and the event of the Night of Performances.
And maybe before I formulate my question, maybe we translate what the billboard says. So would you do it, Miljana?
Sure.
I can hold it to you. So
Okay.
You don't need to
Do I look on my own appearance? Sure, I look on my appearance. I don't know which woman doesn't look on her appearance. Every woman works on her appearance.
Yeah, so this is one of the quotations. And now we are presenting, so basically the Cornea Stories project is also for the first time that you're presenting the magazine, the artistic work within an art space, isn't it so?
Exactly.
Yeah. What would you say that there is in your, is this only like one additional, so to say, channel of communication to a very selected, specialized audience in terms of maybe some discursive boosting, so to say, of the project? Like, what would you, because it's not only about the masses, it's not only the quantity of people that perceive your work, but it's also, of course, some other framing, especially as you said, that which I was also very surprised, that Gloria Gloss, so to say, did not decide to really focus, or like, because basically it's an added value to the magazine, and that there was more or less no notice in the edition itself. So what would you say, or have you talked also with the audience, like how it's the work perceived without, so to say, this framing?
That's a good question, because we were hoping to get some feedback from the magazine, maybe from their readers, about how they received our work and what was their impression or opinions. But because we never had a direct channel of communication with them, so we don't know. Also, when this work was realized, soon there was a lockdown, and the work was still on kiosks when kiosks were closed suddenly. So we don't have any feedback from that side. We have just some feedback from women who were interviewed and
from the people who are more or less familiar with our work, but also we had good feedback from the employers who work in the salons that helped us spend some time in their ambience. So they were kind of very surprised. And we also, when we had the round table like 3 days ago in Rijeka, we also invite all the participants and all the persons from the beauty salon with whom we cooperate. So some of them came to the presentations. They gave us on this way kind of support, that they are really surprised and happy to be the part of all this process. So not all the feedbacks were kind of status quo, but there were also the ones who were saying like, you did a good job, and we think that this kind of artistic work has to be more and more appreciated and visible.
some of them were calling the salons after this came out in an excited way, because they found their own statements inside, for example. But I let it go.
Yeah, I presume because you're also appropriating the discourse of magazines, like very session, like in sensation-wise, women are not discovering, but women are getting out, or like otkrivaju in terms. So it's at the same time coded as a hoax, so to say. Yeah, an artwork which masks itself not to be an artwork also, and a magazine, and a glossy magazine which is not a glossy magazine. So
yeah, that was our intention at first, when you have the magazine in your hand, that it will not reveal any of its secrets, but you have to like really study it very carefully. And I remember one of my colleagues from the center, she didn't know what we were doing, because they had their own researches, and then she took it on the kiosks, and she was reading, and she was said, okay, I have to go back. Then again back, and she needed the time to realize it is appropriation and a simulation of a magazine, not a real magazine. So
already with this form that you chose, you signalize, in my eyes, a method, I would say, or more a theoretical stance, I would say. But nevertheless, maybe I'm wrong, because this is only my hypothesis. Of course, the notion of beauty, especially let us say the beauty treatments that are in the labor of beauty, that is, so to say, following cisgendered norms, which are of course also subject to fashion and so forth, but nevertheless they have since let us say the 50s more or less some similarities in terms of sexualization or the let us say, saturation of a sexual appearance and so forth. And as we know, already in the beginning, feminist movement, especially the bourgeois one, but later also socialist feminist movement, was quite ambivalent to the question of beauty. Like just today, an artist, Anna Ehrenstein, an artist of the exhibition, gave a workshop and discussed with students, participants of the workshop, basically the first way Puritan feminism, she was speaking for the Anglo-Saxon US context, like their anti-beauty, so to say, position. But we also know it within the Marxist feminist movement, that beauty and the sexualization of women's appearance, it has been also a subject of, so to say, critique. Yeah. So what was your stance, so to say, and what was your methodology approaching the subject critically, but nevertheless, so to say, victimizing and labeling women that of course, practice cosmetic treatments?
So this commodification of a body, a woman as equal as a man in this capitalism and this context where we live in this consumeristic society, of course, can be claimed that that now men are equal as a woman are commodified, and this is this so-called new phenomenon in commercials, advertising, where now the men are in the position of so-called given to be seen, and we are equally objectified, man and a woman, just because of this priority to the profit. But when we decided to talk about beauty treatment and interventions into body, we never gave a statement in front, because we said in this, when you open the magazine, in the word of authors and introduction, that our position is not position that we are aside, we are not researchers, we are not someone who is giving a judgment, but we are also a woman who are internalized in the same position as the ones that we are questioning. So that was also what our standpoint, to say, first of all, we are women as equal as to the others that we are speaking, and we are trying to, through this conversation, realize that we are all emerge in this patriarchal matrix that give us images that we have to constantly obtain and obtain and obtain. So I don't know if I gave you the theoretical framework, but I thought
you have.
I give you the our point from where we stand. So yeah.
Yes, you have, certainly. We have in our, so tomorrow, thank you very much, Miljana Babic and Ana Idukovic. And I would like, before, I would like to invite you to follow up us tomorrow, where we will be presenting the research and the publication Cornea's stories, where there will be also some further aspects of cosmetics and labor of beauty discussed. But I would like to close our session today with one quote that attaches basically to what you just said right now, Anna. And it goes, no pedagogy which is truly liberating can remain distant from the oppressed by treating them as unfortunate and by presenting for their emulation models from among the oppressors. The oppressed must be their own example in the struggle for their redemption. It's a quote by Frere, and I would say that cosmetics, which is a daily, so to say, element and daily practice of our lives, sometimes more, sometimes less, sometimes in a let's say, obedient manner, sometimes in a disobedient and even a manner of refusal. So it's with cosmetics. It's ambivalent, and that's why it's also a very playful and also fruitful ground, so to say, not only for explorations, but also articulation of different subjectivities. So thank you for being with us, and let's wave. This was all, folks.